Dr. Gerald Winters prided himself on his perfectionism, but his version of excellence came at a cost. He saw people as tools, measured by their utility and status rather than their humanity. To him, the hospital hierarchy wasn't just a structure, it was a validation of his superiority. Being at the top meant he could dictate the lives of those below, and no one felt the weight of this more than Nurse Monica Price. Monica had been at St. Marian's for almost a decade, earning the respect and gratitude of her colleagues and patients alike. Known for her steady hands, warm demeanor, and ability to diffuse even the tensest situations, Monica was a pillar of the hospital. But despite her stellar reputation, she remained an easy target for Gerald's condescension. Where others saw her as a leader and caregiver, Gerald saw her through the narrow lens of his prejudice. In his eyes, Monica didn't belong at the hospital, let alone excelling within it. His dismissive tone, passive-aggressive remarks, and public scoldings were all designed to remind her of his perceived superiority. The day started like any other, with Monica walking into the bustling hospital just as the sun began to rise. She greeted her colleagues with a smile, as she always did, and began preparing for her shift. On the bulletin board in the break room, she noticed her name listed alongside Dr. Winters for a high-priority assignment in the VIP suite. Monica sighed inwardly. Working with Gerald was always a test of patience, but she knew her focus had to remain on the patient. The VIP suite was reserved for the hospital's most high-profile cases, celebrities, politicians, and philanthropists. Today's patient was shrouded in secrecy, with only the vaguest details provided. As Monica entered the suite to prepare, she noticed the patient had already arrived. He was seated on the examination table, dressed casually in a sweater and jeans. Despite his simple attire, there was something distinguished about him, a quiet confidence that made him stand out. "Good morning, sir." Monica greeted him with a warm smile. "I'm Nurse Price. I'll be assisting Dr. Winters today. Is there anything I can get for you?" The man looked up, his expression softening at her kind tone. "Good morning, Nurse Price. No, I'm all set. It's nice to see someone so cheerful this early in the morning." Monica chuckled lightly. "It's part of the job. A smile can go a long way, especially in a place like this." The patient nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good philosophy to have." As Monica continued preparing the equipment, the door opened with a sharp swing, and Dr. Winters entered the room. His presence was commanding, but his attitude was far from welcoming. "Nurse Price," he barked, his tone immediately hostile. "Why isn't everything ready? This is the VIP suite. Do I need to remind you what that means?" Monica turned to him calmly. "The room is prepared, Dr. Winters. I was just ensuring everything was sanitized and set up properly." "Ensuring?" Gerald scoffed. "Your job is to have things done before I walk in, not while I'm here. This is unacceptable." Before Monica could respond, the patient interjected, his voice steady but firm. "Excuse me, doctor, but I don't think it's fair to address her like that. She's been nothing but professional since I arrived." Gerald paused, clearly taken aback by the patient's boldness. Recovering quickly, he offered a tight smile. "I apologize if I seemed harsh. My standards are simply very high, especially for cases like this." The patient raised an eyebrow, his tone unyielding. "High standards don't excuse disrespect. Perhaps you should consider that." For the first time, Gerald seemed uncomfortable. He cleared his throat and redirected his attention to the medical chart, muttering something about protocols. Monica, used to Gerald's outbursts, remained composed, but the patient's defense of her left her feeling a rare sense of validation. Most people either ignored or enabled Gerald's behavior, but this man had called him out without hesitation. As the examination proceeded, the tension in the room was palpable. Gerald, clearly unsettled by the earlier exchange, was uncharacteristically quiet. The patient, however, seemed to watch everything closely, his sharp eyes taking in every detail of the dynamic between the doctor and nurse. When the appointment concluded, Gerald hastily excused himself, leaving Monica to handle the post-visit protocol. The patient lingered for a moment, his gaze fixed on her. "You handled that well," he said, his voice kind but serious. Monica smiled faintly. "Thank you. It's something I've gotten used to over the years." "You shouldn't have to," the man replied, his tone firm. "You're clearly good at what you do. People like him shouldn't get to overshadow that. Monica was taken aback by the sincerity in his words. I appreciate that, sir. Truly. As the patient prepared to leave, he paused at the door. I'll be back soon, he said cryptically. And when I return, things might look a little different around here. Monica watched him go, puzzled by his words but too preoccupied with her duties to dwell on them. Little did she know this encounter would set off a chain of events that would change everything. For her, for Gerald, and for the hospital itself. The week following the mysterious patient's visit was unusually quiet for Monica. Though she continued her regular duties, her thoughts kept circling back to the cryptic words he had left her with. She found herself wondering who he was and why he had shown such interest in her situation. Meanwhile, Dr. Winters carried on as if nothing had happened. His temper and arrogance remained unchecked, though Monica noticed he seemed slightly more guarded whenever he interacted with her. Perhaps the confrontation with the patient had left some impression, though Monica doubted it would change his behavior for long. One morning, as Monica reviewed her schedule for the day, she noticed an unexpected addition, a meeting request from the hospital administrator. Meetings with upper management were rare, especially for nurses, and Monica couldn't help but feel a sense of unease as she made her way to the administrator's office. When she arrived, the administrator, Mr. Connolly, greeted her with a warm smile. Nurse Price, thank you for coming. Please have a seat. Monica sat down, her curiosity growing. Is everything all right, sir? Oh, more than all right, Mr. Connolly replied, his smile widening. I'm sure you remember the VIP patient from last week. Monica nodded. Yes, of course. Is there an issue? Quite the opposite, Connolly said. He was very impressed with your professionalism and compassion, so much so that he's decided to make a significant donation to the hospital with one condition. Monica's eyebrows lifted in surprise. A condition? Yes, Connolly said, leaning forward. He wants you to be promoted to head nurse of your department, effective immediately. Monica blinked, her mind racing. I don't understand. Who is this man? Connolly chuckled. That's the interesting part. He's one of the wealthiest philanthropists in the country, though he prefers to keep a low profile. Let's just say his contributions to healthcare are unparalleled. Monica was stunned. The man she had assumed was an ordinary patient was actually a powerful benefactor. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Say yes, Connolly said with a smile. You've earned this, Nurse Price, and frankly, it's long overdue. The news of Monica's promotion spread quickly through the hospital, eliciting mixed reactions. Her colleagues were overwhelmingly supportive, congratulating her on the well-deserved recognition. But Dr. Winters' reaction was far less gracious. When he first heard the news, Gerald dismissed it as a fluke. Probably a PR stunt, he muttered to a colleague. These philanthropists like to make waves without understanding how things really work. But as the days passed, Gerald couldn't ignore the changes taking place. Monica's authority was growing, and with it, her confidence. She began implementing new protocols and initiatives, many of which were met with enthusiasm from the staff. Gerald, however, saw these changes as a threat to his own dominance. One afternoon, Gerald confronted Monica in the hallway. Nurse Price, he said, his tone laced with disdain. A word? Monica stopped, turning to face him. Yes, Doctor. Winters? I couldn't help but notice some of the new policies you've introduced, he began. While I'm sure your intentions are good, you might want to consult with senior staff before making such sweeping changes. Monica met his gaze calmly. The policies have been reviewed and approved by administration, Doctor. Winters, if you have any concerns, I suggest you take them up with Mr. Connolly. Gerald's jaw tightened. Don't mistake this promotion for authority over me. I've been at this hospital longer than you've been in the field, and I won't tolerate— Dr. Winters, Monica interrupted, her voice firm but composed. This isn't about you or me. It's about improving patient care. If you have constructive feedback, I'm happy to hear it. But if this is about undermining my position, I suggest you reconsider. For a moment, Gerald was speechless. Monica's assertiveness was something he hadn't anticipated, and it left him off balance. As tensions simmered between Monica and Gerald, the mysterious benefactor reappeared, this time in a more official capacity. The hospital hosted a ceremony to celebrate his donation, inviting staff and local media to attend. When the man stepped onto the stage, Monica felt a jolt of recognition. Dressed in a tailored suit, he exuded the same warmth and humility she had observed during their first meeting. But now his presence carried an undeniable authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, addressing the crowd, "my name is James Hartwell. I'm honored to support St. Marion's Hospital, a place that has touched countless lives, including my own." He went on to share his story, revealing that he had been a patient at St. Marion's years ago after a serious accident. During his recovery, he had witnessed the dedication and compassion of the nursing staff, which left a lasting impression on him. "My recent visit reminded me of that experience," Hartwell continued, "and it also reminded me of the importance of recognizing those who go above and beyond. Nurse Monica Price is one such individual. Her professionalism and kindness embody everything healthcare should be." The audience erupted into applause, and Monica felt tears prick her eyes. Gerald, standing at the back of the room, looked as though he'd swallowed a lemon. As the ceremony concluded, Hartwell approached Monica, extending his hand. "Congratulations, Nurse Price. You deserve every bit of this recognition." "Thank you," Monica said, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done." "You've already done it," Hartwell replied with a smile, "by being exactly who you are." In the weeks following James Hartwell's visit and the announcement of her promotion, Monica's life underwent a profound transformation. Though her responsibilities as head nurse increased, so did her confidence. She embraced her new role with a sense of purpose, determined to prove that the trust placed in her was well-founded. However, the growing animosity from Dr. Winters cast a shadow over her progress. Despite his outward professionalism, Gerald began undermining her efforts at every opportunity. He questioned her decisions during meetings, dismissed her suggestions as impractical, and even attempted to rally other doctors against her policies. Monica remained resolute, refusing to let Gerald's behavior derail her work. But his actions took a toll on her emotionally. After one particularly tense meeting, where Gerald had openly criticized her in front of the staff, Monica retreated to her office, her hands trembling with frustration. As she sat at her desk, trying to steady her breathing, there was a knock at the door. "Come in," she called, masking her emotions. The door opened to reveal James Hartwell, his familiar warm smile immediately putting her at ease. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said. "Not at all," Monica replied, rising to greet him. "Please come in." James entered, taking a seat across from her. "I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Transitioning into a leadership role isn't always easy." Monica hesitated, debating whether to share her struggles. But something about James's demeanor encouraged honesty. "It's been challenging," she admitted. "Some of the staff, particularly Dr. Winters, haven't been as supportive as I'd hoped." James nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I suspected as much. Gerald Winters has a reputation for being difficult, especially when his authority is challenged." Monica sighed. "I've tried to be professional and focus on the work, but it feels like no matter what I do, it's never enough." James leaned forward, his gaze steady. "Monica, you're not alone in this. Change is never easy, and resistance is a natural part of the process. But remember, the work you're doing is bigger than any one person. You're setting an example for others to follow, showing them what's possible." His words resonated deeply, reigniting the determination Monica had felt when she first accepted the promotion. "Thank you," she said, her voice firm. "I needed to hear that." As the weeks turned into months, Monica's resilience began to pay off. Her initiatives led to noticeable improvements in patient care, earning praise from both staff and patients. Even Gerald, begrudgingly, had to acknowledge the positive impact of her leadership. But the true turning point came one stormy evening, when an emergency brought Monica and Gerald face to face in a high-pressure situation. A young boy, barely 6 years old, had been rushed into the ER after a car accident. The child's condition was critical, and every second counted. Monica and Gerald found themselves working side by side, their personal conflicts forgotten in the urgency of the moment. "His vitals are dropping," Monica called, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I need a clear airway," Gerald replied, his focus absolute. "Monica, I need you to assist with the intubation." Without hesitation, Monica stepped in, her hands steady as she followed Gerald's instructions. Together, they worked seamlessly, their combined expertise saving the boy's life. As the crisis passed and the child was stabilized, Gerald turned to Monica, his expression unreadable. "Good work," he said simply. Monica nodded, too exhausted to read into his tone. But the incident marked a subtle shift in their dynamic. Though Gerald didn't outwardly apologize for his past behavior, his actions began to change. He became less combative in meetings, more willing to collaborate. Months later, the hospital hosted a gala to celebrate the success of its new initiatives, many of which had been spearheaded by Monica. As she stood on stage accepting an award for her contributions, she scanned the audience, her gaze landing on Gerald. He gave her a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of her achievements. After the ceremony, Monica found herself face-to-face with Gerald for the first time in weeks. "Congratulations," he said, his tone sincere. "Thank you," Monica replied, her guard still up. Gerald hesitated, then added, "I underestimated you, Monica. You've proven me wrong, and I can admit that. The hospital is better for your leadership." Though the words weren't an apology, they carried weight. For the first time, Monica felt a glimmer of respect from the man who had been her greatest adversary. As the evening drew to a close, Monica stepped outside for a moment of quiet reflection. The night was crisp, the stars bright against the dark sky. James Hartwell appeared beside her, his expression one of quiet pride. "You've come a long way, Monica." "I couldn't have done it without your support," she said, her gratitude evident. "Nonsense," James replied. "The strength was always within you. All I did was give you the opportunity to show it." Monica smiled, her heart full. "Thank you, James, for everything." As they stood together under the night sky, Monica felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had faced adversity, challenged the status quo, and emerged stronger for it. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly hold more challenges, she knew she was ready to face them, her head held high.